guys, welcome to Session Tapes. As you can see, we're in a bit of a new space right now. Moving to a new office recently, which is very exciting. My good personal friend Wesley just set this up for us. We'll come back next year with an even better one. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, this is probably a bit of a one-time deal.
Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, if you really love it that much, let us know.
Yeah,
otherwise we are going to destroy it.
Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, it's been a bit of a busy few weeks moving
madness.
Offices.
Yeah.
Oh, it has been absolute madness.
Right at the end of the year as well.
we were we turned into painters for a day.
Yeah.
We've just recently, like pretty much literally today, everything finally set up in the new office as we want it to be. But it's been pretty awesome. We have a pool table now, which I have to say is a huge quality of life upgrade.
Yeah, massive. Even just the aesthetic. When you look over and you see like the pool table in the middle of
the rich mahogany. The different colored balls.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be struck. It's great.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Really good.
It's a good time. Anyway, what's on the bulletin today, Alex?
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's actually
just like every other two blokes on a podcast in the world right now, we're going to be talking about one Elon Musk.
Exactly. Wait, I don't think I'm not aware of this.
You may know him as Chief Twit.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, that's really the only other thing. I think you probably know him as Mr. Musk.
Yeah. Other things that you can't really, they're not very podcast appropriate.
Yeah, and there's really a lot going on over there. I think there's only one thing. We'll probably just explore it a little bit. But I mean, one thing that I know that you've had some pretty strong thoughts about is Twitter and Musk talking about trying to bring end-to-end encryption into the DMs.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that, interestingly, we explored a couple months ago when it was looking like the deal was going to happen the original time. And it was funny because he compared it to Signal. And he said this again recently. He said Twitter DMs are going to be the new
He said
Signal.
He wanted it to supersede Signal.
Which is just
very ambitious goal.
The craziest Elon moment.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. Especially when you consider it in conjunction with all of the issues that seem to be cropping up now with content moderation. I mean, so literally I think almost half of all Twitter employees have now been sliced and diced, removed, sacked.
They're all gone. And it was during this period of instability where people were kind of being like, this team that I was on that had 30 people on it, it's one person now. And they deal with really basic functionality of Twitter. And during this time when everyone was waking up and expecting it just to not exist anymore, he's like, we're also going to turn the DMs into something better than Signal.
There was a really funny thing that happened, and I'm not sure if this was a hoax or if it was real, but there was a guy who was like, yeah, so my job used to be I was in control of card access for the building for Twitter headquarters. And I got fired, and then they were it was on the day they were pack your desk, get out of here, don't come back. And then later that day they called him up and they were like, hey, none of the cards work. No one could get into the office.
And he was like, who is this? I don't know.
Please come back.
Who you are.
And it's there are a lot of stories like this that are maybe not as dramatic as literally being locked out of the building. But it's the idea is basically there was this really complex, like you're saying, ongoing work that suddenly the whole team has just been deleted from the Twitter sphere.
It was funny to watch a lot of this play out on Twitter as well. He would be like, oh, we have this problem. And then someone would sort of reply and be like, oh, I can do that. And he'd be like, come in tomorrow and see if you can fix this problem.
Yeah. Or that tweet when he was he was like, yeah, everyone in Twitter, meet me on the 54th floor. Anyone who can write code. And we're going to do a code review together on this whiteboard. Oh, man.
The whole, I need you to send me, samples with your code thing was just, fucking
it's very funny.
Silly. But, yeah, so he wants to bring in end-to-end encryption for DMs, and he believes that this will make it supersede Signal as one of the premier secure messaging applications.
Yeah, which even if they added end-to-end encryption, it is worse than Signal by a lot.
So insane. The lengths that teams like the Signal team and teams like ours go to obfuscate metadata information that can tell a story about you beyond the content itself, which is encrypted. It's really hard work. It's not easy to get to that point. And
yeah.
it's I imagine that because even when we saw it, we were like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I can only imagine how the team at Signal would have responded as well.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it just kind of makes you seem stupid when you think that being equivalent to Signal, or like something like Session, is just like, oh, it's encrypted.
Yeah.
It's like such a like movie Hollywood trope.
For sure.
It's got the latest military grade encryption. No one can crack this, baby.
You would need 500 supercomputers
all going at once in the quantum supersphere, and then you could maybe hack it if you had 1 billion years.
Yeah, like I said.
And it's like, it's not...
A classic Elon moment. It kind of reminded me of how he was like when those kids are trapped in that cave in Thailand, and he's like, what if we got a tiny submarine?
No,
it's like something you see in a movie.
It's like a submarine, but for children. Yeah. Hear me out, everybody.
That was how it sounded to us, and to, I imagine, other people that work in the secure messaging space when he was like, we're going to encrypt the DMs and it's going to be better than Signal.
Yeah. And just to like, for those of you watching at home, just to reel off some of the things that you would be missing if you just had end-to-end encryption, you would still have, well, first of all, like, I don't think that Twitter would open source it, so you would still have like a huge trust issue. You wouldn't be managing your own keys, your own encryption keys. You would still have like a bunch of metadata that was being handed over to Twitter, and presumably advertisers or government organizations that are requesting that information around like when messages are sent, who you're messaging, how often you message them, lots of information like that, which can be used to paint a really detailed picture of, you know, what you're up to.
Definitely. And so even some people out there will tell you that the requirement of a phone number to sign up with Signal, a bit of an issue in terms of connecting information to something that should be private if people were to try and make that connection.
I've heard it said.
And so the concept of not just a phone number attached to this, but like your whole Twitter account is so insane.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It can't work. But, you know, like, points for trying, I guess, to an extent.
I mean, he always gives it a crack. Our boy Elon.
Yeah, and I think that the end-to-end encrypted DM stuff, for me, comes in... It's really interesting when you think about the approach to content moderation that Twitter looks like it's having. And, like, Elon tweeted out, he was like, oh, comedy's legal on Twitter again now, everybody. And there was like rounds of applause.
Replied underneath that it was like, I don't even know what I can say. What I can't say right now.
I mean,
it wasn't Elon. That was going to be a joke.
Yeah. So, you know, he was like, comedy is legal now on Twitter again. And there was like rounds of applause from all of his fans, like, whoop whoop. We love comedy. Comedy's awesome. I love to laugh. Yep. But you know, there's been a lot of like. Yeah, but comedy, but not like that, basically, and like people poking fun, noticeably at Elon himself.
It's like whack-a-mole of like, being, comedy's good, let's do the comedy, and then every time something came up that he didn't like, he was like, no.
Yeah, so it's like a my way or the highway kind of setup at the moment, and it's interesting to think that the concept of introducing end-to-end encrypted DMs is really at odds with, like, even though the approach that they're actually taking with content moderation doesn't necessarily line up with this, but like with the like freedom of expression values that he's espousing. It's like, and then the like heavy moderation of like his own critics, but then being like, oh, but what if you also had encrypted DMs?
Yeah,
it's like. There's a lot of balls in the air, and I'm not really sure that there's like a coherent message that's being sent.
I think he just rocks up and he's like, what are we going to do today? And just like, I don't feel like
it's like, I like Signal. What if we made Signal?
Yeah.
That sounds like
He's like in the boardroom, he's just on Signal, and he's like, this is pretty good. What if what if
in like a month he's going to be like, we're actually going to supersede Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter is now Facebook.com.
Yeah.
So it's really weird, but I don't think Twitter is going to be turning into a messaging app.
No, I don't think so. Ultimately, it would be good for the DMs to be end-to-end encrypted, but some very strange claims from Mr. Musk.
It's really hard to implement. We've seen Messenger try to implement end-to-end encryption for literally years now, and they've struggled deeply in their journey because, you know, it introduces a lot of technical complexity. And even there's a lot of cultural barriers to overcome people become very sus, basically. When you say, hey, would you like to now encrypt your messages? And they're like...
We were reading them all before.
Yeah, but like, what if we stopped? Would you like us to stop? And it's like...
Yeah, it's a tough one.
You know.
Which encrypted messaging app has been around for quite a while?
Oh, I mean, there are a lot.
There are a lot. I was reading earlier that Wickr, one of the first, Old Man Wickr, yeah, and that great legacy has been crumbling over the last year or so, I would say.
Well, the legacy of Wickr as an app that simple folks such as you and I might use has been on the
very
fritz
big in
for a
Australia,
while.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how that happened because there are many.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently it's been around for a long time, and over the last year or so, things haven't gone so good. We hate you. Oh, maybe that's what they want. Who knows? Maybe the things that have happened are things that they wanted.
Right.
It started off right with, I feel like it was about a year ago, maybe longer, that they were acquired by a little company you might have heard of called Amazon.
Bezos Incorporated.
Yeah. Jeff got on the phone and he was like, hello.
Get me one of them messaging apps.
I want it now. I want it by the end of the day.
Doesn't matter what it costs.
Yeah.
Get me a messaging
Give it to
app.
me now. Give it
Best
to me
one
now.
you can find.
And they couldn't acquire us even though we were the best ones. So they went on to another one that ended up with Wickr.
Yes.
And it is interesting because if they had tried to acquire Session,
we would have been like, see you later, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
We would have invited him for a tour at an undisclosed location.
Yeah. Maybe in the outback. Maybe in my property in Alice Springs. But also, beyond that, it would have been very difficult because the decentralized infrastructure. Of
course, yes.
And it's interesting to look at how easy it is in comparison to an app like Session. For when you run all the servers the company does, you can just
just be like, okay, Jeffrey, here's the password.
Yeah,
you own Wickr now.
Just take it. Yeah, it's crazy how easy it is, and it's crazy how just dismayed so many people in the privacy community were when this announcement
it's
happened.
really upsetting, right? Because you see a brand and an app like Wickr, which had really built up a strong reputation, and there were a lot of people who like genuinely relied on it, used it day to day.
And it's pretty strong. Like there are like many different criteria that come into play here when you're looking at like what is the difference between a signal or a session and maybe like something that's kind of shitty. There's like a lot of different criteria here, and generally Wickr scores pretty highly in that test.
Yeah, definitely. And yet, as soon as they were acquired by Amazon, even though materially the technology didn't change, it was like immediately everyone was like, "Don't use Wickr.
Yeah, for sure.
Do not touch this technology.
Yeah, get rid of it. Delete it off your phone yesterday."
And now, just a year later, so what's happening with Wickr? It's meeting its demise.
So if you use Wickr Me, which is like the free version, which is just for everyday folks like you and me to use, no, you don't. No, you don't, as of 2024.
Right, okay.
Because, even if you wanted to download it on January 1st, in just a couple of weeks, you won't be able to. It's being removed from app stores. It's being
like
maybe
Flappy
it's
Bird.
going to be like...
People are going to be selling like iPhones that still have Wickr on them on eBay.
We should download it right now. Actually. We've got a few phones around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd capitalize on that. But... Anyway, as I was saying, so I guess like there'd still be APKs floating around, but I saw something that basically said they're going to stop making it available to people to download as of the start of next year, and then the app's not going to exist anymore after another year by the end of 2023.
If you still have it, a Wickr representative will physically come to your home and delete it from your device.
They'll kick your door down.
Yeah.
Like, hey, buddy. Give me that.
Absolutely.
It's Jeff. It's the Jeff squad.
Jeff is there with a gang of other bald men. And they rock up.
All in the same suit.
All in the same suit. They look physically identical. It's actually 6 Jeff Bezos holograms who will intimidate you and your family until you delete Wickr from your phone.
And that's just what's going to happen. And you can't do anything about that. We would never do that.
We can't. We are legally not allowed to represent Jeff Bezos or his likeness on this podcast.
We wouldn't be able to
as
find
of today
either. It would be, see, Jeff knows where these people are.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, Jeff knows.
We don't know.
Much like Santa Claus, Jeff Bezos has a list of everyone.
Yeah.
He knows where they're sleeping. He knows when they're awake.
Yeah,
absolutely. He's like on track with you. Jeff Bezos, in many ways, is Santa Claus.
He definitely is a little less cheerful and jolly, but in many other ways, definitely true.
Yeah, he's less hairy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, it is very sad. It's very sad for Wickr users, and it's just it's just cringe, you know? It's cringe.
It is. But this is also something that, just like Session, it's great that it can't just be bought out. The other thing about Session is, we can't just like stand up and go, no, shut her down.
Yeah, exactly.
The community can continue
They'd be like,
can be like, we're not going to run it down. We're actually going to just keep running it.
Yeah, I'm going to run it even more.
Yeah, I'm actually going to make it even bigger.
Yeah.
So like it has way more resilience in terms of being able to live on throughout the future. Whether we're still around maintaining it or not is sort of besides the point. And really, I think the idea is that we want it to outlive, any of us being able to work on it specifically and like continue. And
it takes on somewhat of a life of its own. And even there have been forks, even because it's open source. Obviously, there are people have been like, I wish this was like that, and they just go and do it, and they publish it, and then people can use it in that way
if they want to. Yeah, for sure.
So rip Wickr users.
Yeah, rip for Wickr.
Bit of an F for Jeff. A Jeff F.
Respect.
So have you been to Maryland recently?
Pardon me? Yeah, Maryland. So Maryland, a location in the United States of America.
It's a city. It's not a state, right?
It's a state.
Okay.
It's a state, but that's okay. We'll cut that out. So
in the state of Maryland.
In the state of Maryland, what's been going on is the governor has decided to ban a little app, a little free application called TikTok.
TikTok?
TikTok. The TikTok application has been banned from all state devices in Maryland.
Unbelievable. But also kind of quite believable.
So it's very believable. In fact, so believable that this nearly happened to us.
Yeah,
we nearly got TikTok banned from our devices, personal and non-personal.
Yeah, we did a bit of an oopsie. We weren't very, I actually take responsibility. I wasn't very responsible with our operational security. And there were some details, some things visually in the TikTok which probably should remain private. And we nearly got banned from using it as a platform.
It created a little bit of controversy.
Yeah. But we rode through that storm.
It definitely, some things came up, because this sort of sparked a wider discussion about TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, what's up with TikTok? How do we feel about this? How do we feel about using this app, this clock app?
It's a bit
and then we were like, we like the clock app, but they were like, this is fucking spy shit, man. They're spying on you. Yeah. Don't use that.
The exact feedback, or some of the feedback I got was like, don't film out the window. Don't film any of the computers with the screens on. Don't use TikTok.
So really, if you're unsure about points 1 or 2, refer to point 3. Yeah.
Basically. And it's very understandable. And this is both in the context of what happened here in our office and also what happened in the governor's office in Maryland, in state of Maryland. Because it really is essentially not just. Talks can be quite entertaining, but it's also Chinese spyware.
It is, yeah. There's no doubt that TikTok genuinely is spying on users, and there's been a lot of concern about this here in Australia and also in the US, that all of this information, is filtering back to.
No, go on.
They got me. Jeff got me. It was Bezos. What was I saying?
You were saying that it's spyware.
Yeah, it really is. And there's been a lot of concern in Australia and in the US about all of this data that's being collected filtering back to China. I can't get through it.
He's being activated. His sleeper agent. He's trying to fight it.
I think it's pollen or something in here, man. It's dusty. I'm all good.
Here in Australia as well, there's been some concern, some pretty high-level politicians as well have been kind of like, we should ban this in this country.
Yeah, we should. It's a nationwide security risk.
Yeah,
for us to have this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like in the same way as the Huawei thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously, large technology companies in China they are largely like very much influenced by the CCP.
Yeah, well, in this case, right, TikTok is operated by Tencent, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in the same way that Huawei, same way that we were concerned, and many countries actually have been concerned about Huawei building infrastructure in their countries, is because there are intelligence agencies in China which want to use these sorts of things to gather intelligence in foreign countries.
Yeah, and there's lots of concerns that people have, and ultimately, I think we're going to see probably a lot more. I think government institutions and even companies being like, do not use TikTok.
Yeah,
at least don't use it on your work device.
Yeah, which was requested
of us.
But
I think you will have like a certain degree of operational security and kind of like quarantine TikTok on some burner phones.
I think that makes sense, and I think that
and also my personal phone.
I think that it will continue to there'll be like a bit of a back and forth because it is spyware, it is collecting a crazy amount of information in very unusual ways compared to similar applications. And then a lot of that information, some of the information, potentially being used in ways that Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think Instagram and Facebook are also collecting similar information. That's because they're US-owned companies, people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I'm actually going to change my whole point here. I'm going to say that it's...
So they call him easily influenced Cammy.
Well, yeah, I don't know. What I was thinking was that essentially it's been relatively well received despite how it basically is spyware. And I feel that it's basically going to be ramped up. And the people that operate the app will probably try to just see how far they can go before there's like a breaking point. And so I think it'll kind of go back and forth until eventually, I wouldn't be surprised if in like 3 or 4 years that like it is banned in more places than just Maryland.
Yeah, but it would set a really interesting precedent to see just like a social platform like TikTok get banned. It's like so prevalent and so almost ubiquitous, especially with younger people. Everyone is using this application. To see it banned at like a government level, I don't think this has really happened. The closest thing I can imagine here in Australia, at least, and this has happened in other countries as well, certain websites that are used for like pirating and stealing like movies or like movies. Software and stuff like that. Yeah,
they wiped out 123 movies.
Yeah, they've been like DNS blocked.
There used to be a million proxies. They're all gone.
Which is similar, right? But it's not the same. It's not the same thing, and it feels like banning an app would really be like taking a further step.
Yeah, I mean, it amounts to internet censorship in the same way that somewhere like China also does the same thing with an app like Instagram or Facebook.
That's true, but at the same time, like you really have to weigh up how
it's not
something like TikTok itself. No, it's not. But like there is this kind of like tension where you're right, banning it would be in itself an act of censorship, right?
Yeah.
But then you think about how TikTok itself is able to be used as a mechanism for censorship and has multiple times been caught out censoring or like downranking content that's like causing civil unrest or considered controversial or like like for various reasons, and like it's kind of the worst of both worlds in a way. It's like, what is the solution here?
Yeah.
Who knows? Speaking of TikTok, and this is not related to TikTok privacy at all, but it's just like a bit of a random.
Yeah.
You know how TikTok? So like, you know how TikTok will like scan your contacts. I actually don't want to do this bit anyway.
There is some crazy stuff going on in the world of encrypted communications at the moment, I hope that it's a good year, 2023.
Yeah, well, this will be our last podcast of 2022.
So true.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot going on out there in the world of tech and encryption and TikTok.
And it's probably going to happen increasingly. The happenings will increase.
It seems that way. Yeah. It seems like the world is only getting crazier and crazier out there. Yeah. But that's pretty much all we have for today. But it's not all we have in general. We've also been doing a bunch of other content. Most notably, I would say you should check out our Privacy Expert Reacts. Spoiler alert. I am the privacy expert.
He reacts.
And I react to various scenes from our TV shows and movies. And I believe we have some more content that's in a similar vein lined up. So if you enjoy our lovely presence and spending time with us, then make sure you check that video out as well.
And thanks for joining us. Hope you had a good time. See you next year.